The tall, gangly thing?
Hello and welcome. Today I am joined by the 6'4" gaming machine from Sweden, Gunmay himself. Gunmay, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So before we start, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, like you introduced me, 6'4" gaming machine from Sweden. I started playing in set 2, around mid set 2. Most people that I know started in set 1. I actually technically started in set 1. I was playing in the beta on PBE, but I was playing World of Warcraft a lot of the time, so I wasn't interested enough to stop playing that. And then I swapped to TFT around the time where Blender was meta. And the ideas come off of like ocean mages were really broken. And when I was looking up what should I play, it's also ocean mages without knowing it was nerfed. So I pretty much spammed ocean mages the whole way to challenger. Fun fact, I wasn't starting out with berserkers, came later. Since then I've been one of the top performers in Europe.
Yeah, and going off of that, obviously this weekend we have the EU regionals coming up. Last set, you barely missed the Worlds qualifier event. So how do you feel going into this weekend?
I feel pretty good. We recently started today, actually, with the in-houses with basically all the top European players. I think everyone but like the French top players are in there. Like made a Discord for in-house games and stuff to get like better quality games because ladder is kind of iffy sometimes. So I feel pretty good going into it. I'm testing a lot of stuff. I think the patch tomorrow is going to be great. We can have a really healthy meta going into regionals, which I'm excited about. Obviously, last time, I think it was more of a fluke that didn't make it. But I'm looking forward to making up for it this time, for sure.
You know, when a lot of people think of the European TFT players, they think of a lot of EUS players, right? Like Fluffy, and Salvi. But you actually come from EUNE, a smaller server that not everyone is as familiar with. How would you compare the two servers? And do you feel like there's actually a rivalry between EUS and EUNE?
No, I wouldn't say there's any rivalry. I think the EUNE players actually, like, some of them are good. There's one player called Stray that I think is really, really good. He actually had rank 1 EU West just a couple of days ago. I think he's the second player that comes like naturally from EUNE that's like a top level player. The first one was Mo 610, I think his name was. He was playing last year. And then there's also some other players. There's TFT Og, Chinese Superbot, and I'm missing one. But anyways, there are some decent players in the top 10. I think for sure the level is just a lot lower though, because it's a smaller server. That's just to be expected. You can't really. It very much is something that trickles down, you know. So like if there's a lot of top players, eventually like the lower challenger is going to catch up and keep improving as well. It just takes longer for smaller servers. But I wouldn't say there's any like rivalry. Oh, sorry, I don't know how to say the word, but like it's. I wouldn't consider that. I think it's mostly. I think the level actually increased because me and Hayden went there because people wanted to prove like they wanted to prove that EUNE was like worthy or good, which is kind of fun. Like I think and they're all super friendly, by the way, and talk to a lot of them actually now. So for that reason, I think like maybe the level increased a little bit. And I mean, that's always going to happen when you have an influx. Like there was other US players also, by the way, that went there that didn't make it. So I don't think EUNE is like a super pushover or anything, but I think the top 10 is pretty decent, for sure.
You know, looking back to set 3, there were a lot of memes about the European competitive scene, specifically about the Little Legend eggs. But with this set, looking at regionals, there's a 30,000 euro prize pool. Do you feel like the overall sentiment of the EU competitive scene has improved with this set?
I mean, we got money, which is nice, but actually the format has gotten a lot worse, even, which I didn't think was possible because we already had only 5 weeks last time for snapshots. We had no tournament qualification at all. If you compare it to NA, for example, that had well, what have they had? Like weeks and weeks and weeks of snapshots. Had like weekly tournaments to make it, and even had like the last chance tournaments and stuff for the, I don't know what you want to call it, amateur players, whatever you want to call it, like the lower level players that maybe aren't playing as much or can't hold like top spots on ladder to gain like snapshot points every week. So I'd say I'm still extremely disappointed in the format we have. I'm hoping that it's going to be better. As far as I know, the reason it took so long and the reason we have so little snapshot weeks is because it took a while for Riot EU to like find a partner. Like for example, NA has Wisdom Media, right? The Giant Slayer people, which are all great. So hopefully now they found a partner that's willing to work with them, and hopefully Set 5 will be better.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are looking to Set 5 to fix a lot of things, whether it's the competitive format, also spectator mode coming out. But moving back to what you were just talking about with the European competitive scene, there are a lot of people who would say that Europe is one of the strongest regions. Actually, when I've interviewed a handful of people and asked them about the strongest regions and who has the best chance to take Worlds, and pretty much everyone that I've talked to has said that they believe that either NA or EU West has the best chance to actually win Worlds. Who do you think? What region do you think has the best chance to win Worlds?
I think EU is the strongest. I used to be, I still am very fond of a lot of the players in NA, and I think if you look at the top 10 players in EU and NA, overall the level is very similar. I don't think it's like a huge difference. Like I can't tell you a player like Dasic is like better or worse than a player like Mismatch Socks, for example. Like the difference is very similar. They excel at different stuff, for example, but on average they are similar level players, right? I think EU just has more slots this time. We're going with 6, which is, I think, deserved after last time's performance, where we had 3 players, and we had 3 players in the top 4, went second, first, and fourth. So I think it's well deserved that also because of the size of the region and the many, like it's not just EU West, it's EUNE, Turkey, and Russia playing the qualifier as well. So I think just for that sake as well, it makes sense to have a lot more slots. But yeah, I think overall the level of EU like trickles down a lot better. I think a mid-level player in EU is generally better than a mid-level player in NA. But other than that, I think the top level is similar. I think Korea and China are good, but they're lacking a little bit. Like they're falling behind a little bit.
People who are new to TFT may not know this, but there was once upon a time you were regarded as one of the strongest tournament players. You had the 13-week stretch in Fight Night Rising. Do you feel like tournament play actually requires a different skill set than ladder play?
No, a lot of people ask this because like you said, I was known as a tournament player, but it was more like I just hated ladder, and I still do, because there was nothing to play for before snapshots came into play. So I just had no real motivation to like try to go for rank 1 or whatever, because there's no direct incentive to do so. Like if you stream a lot, like it's nice to get some extra stream viewers, and that's about it. So for me, ladder was always a practice tool, and it still is. And I think the reason I was so consistent and so good in Set 3 was not necessarily because I was like better than everyone else. It was more that I prepared way better than everyone else. At the time, because of Corona, I was having some time off from my job because everything was closed and stuff during lockdown. So I was just basically eat, breathe, live TFT. And during this time, then like I would hard sweat everything. Like it didn't matter if it was a GSS or if it was a local Swedish tournament or if it was a fight night. I would look up everyone's what they had played the last couple of games, what item components it looks like they start basing their items they made. I would look through like what their preference is in terms of like going each comp during, like, because this was during Galaxies, so I like looked what what tendencies they had in different Galaxies. Like I was that level of sweat even for a fight night, because I'm super competitive. I hate losing, And at the time, people started talking about the streaks. I thought it was funny, so I just wanted to keep it going. But yeah, I think the biggest reason I was so consistent and good during set 3 was one time was on my side. Like I had a lot of extra time, but also I was using it really well in terms of preparation. I think that's where you see a difference in tournament play, because you can't prepare for the same way when you play on ladder. You don't know ahead of time who you're going to play against. You only have so much time before the game starts. You can't really make a game plan. You go in with a general idea what you're going to do every game. And also I think flexibility. I used to be known as like the one-trick Berserker player in set 2. And even in set 2, actually, before, I remember we were playing the Lobby 2 Invitational, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I basically knew that I had to, like, I wanted to win. So I knew I had to be really, like, learn to play flexibly, because one-tricking in a tournament is very high variance. It's going to be like a first-rate play, because if you hit, like, great, you know how to play that comp better than anyone else. But there's going to be options on the table, you know, that you're maybe missing out on because you didn't prepare for other stuff. And that's like placements lost for no reason. So I think flexible play, like, I think during set 3 especially, I think I had the most amount of comps played, like different comps played during GSS, for example, and stuff, which I pride myself on. Like, I think now as well, I'm really like a flexible player. I haven't been known as a one-trick since the Berserker days, because I look up to players like Mismatch Socks or GV8 when I started playing, because when I started getting more into TFT, I was obviously playing on NA, so they were like the people I played against. I was considering really good at flexible play, so I watched their streams a lot. I think Kerm is another one that's good at it. So I just took that and like went with that, and haven't looked back since.
Yeah, you know, bouncing off of what you're talking about with preparation, it makes sense, you know, because one of the things you are known for is kind of like the way you've innovated different styles of play. Obviously, you were known as the Berserker guy, right? And in set 3, you were known as the Space Jam guy. You were kind of known for, if you decided to learn how to play a comp, you would now become the person to go to if people wanted to learn the comp, because of the time and the thought that you'd put into learning how to play those comps optimally. And that kind of leads me to the next thing I want to talk about, where we can step back from competitive TFT and talk about the newest endeavor that you've announced, which is coaching through Metafy. Do you want to expand a little bit on what that is?
Oh, so Metafy is a coaching site for all types of different games. I recently partnered up with them to bring back coaching. I used to do a lot of coaching in set 3. I did it on my own, and like, it's kind of messy. Like, I'm pretty lazy, so I like having assistant do it for me. So I enjoy coaching a lot. Like, my coaching style is a lot different to like what other people's are. I think the only people that do similar, like I do like what's called like a vault review, where we go very in depth about like a game or two, and we go over every step in like a calm manner, with the intention to like learn as much as possible. Whereas some people will do coaching and they coaching, but it's like actually just backseating, which I don't think is good for learning. I think it's stressful for the student. I think it's basically just give me $25 to get me a first thing fair. So I think this way it takes longer for sure, both from the student and from me, but I think it's way better in terms of like learning. So I think there's the other people that, because when I started doing coaching, everyone, like, I asked who is the best at coaching. It was the most people I heard from EU said Fluffy, and then from NA they said Natures, and they all did that style. So I adopted the same style of coaching, which is a lot of fun. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge nerd when it comes to TFT, and just talking about the game and learning about it. Like, sometimes I'll teach someone about it and be like, oh, well, this refresh my memory, you know, about something in the game, which is always good.
Yeah, and just to plug it a little bit, I will say I did get a coaching session from Gunmay, and immediately it went up 160 LP in the next 6 days. So if there's a testimonial out there, it is that, because if he can teach me, he can definitely teach you. So, between streaming, coaching, competitive play, there are definitely a few different avenues out there for people to take TFT. What are your long-term goals with the game, if there are any at all?
I mean, I would love to do it full time if possible, but I haven't really considered that much as a possibility right now, simply because of how niche the tournament scene still is, especially in Europe. Like, and I retired or whatever you want to call it. Like, I took a step back because I knew it wasn't worth putting in my time anymore to the same level, because I saw there was no tournaments in play. When Set 4 was announced, we started hearing all about this, all of these tournaments, all these things set up for NA, and it was just radio silence for EU. So I was like, okay, well, I know what that means. That means we're going to have Set 4 basically be a dead set where we don't have snapshots and nothing really matters for Worlds. So I might as well just come back for 4.5, which is what I did. Basically took like 3-4 months off, played a little bit for fun when I wanted to, so I could still complain to Mortog. But outside of that, it's basically play for Worlds or don't play right now, in my opinion, unless you're a like streaming personality and stuff like that. Like obviously someone like Soju or EUNE has a lot of incentive to play, even if like the competitive scene is suffering. But someone like me who doesn't really stream, even though I do like coaching, write guides and do all this stuff, work together with Giant Slayer on that, it's still not enough for me to incentivize me to go full time. I'd love to do it mostly because, like I said earlier, I'm super competitive. I know what I can do when I have the time on my hands, like when I have the time to prepare. But for now, it's not feasible, but you never know. I've adopted this new positive mindset recently, which I haven't had before. So you never know. Maybe in the future.
Yep, we will certainly see what the future holds. And with that, that is everything I have for you, Gunmay. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything you'd want to shout out before we go?
I'm not really good with shoutouts, but I'll actually shout out the Riot, like the balancing team. Actually, I've been giving them a lot of shit this whole set because I'm not a fan of the set mechanic. But the patch that's coming out tomorrow on Wednesday, it's looking really good. I'm happy that they listen to player feedback, especially considering regionals is right around the corner. So I'm looking forward to playing the new patch and hopefully do well in regionals and make Worlds.
And again, thank you so much for joining me, Gunmay. For those of you who are watching, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment to let me know who you'd like to see interviewed in the future. And until then, we have another couple interviews coming out next week, and I will see you guys later.